Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, and he's back. The man, myth, the legend from Las Vegas, Brian Lebo. How you doing, sir?
What's up? How's it going, man?
Going well. So, dude, Vegas has got to be crashing. It's got to be falling off a cliff like real estate depression. Has to be horrible in Vegas right now because prices, affordability, interest rates. It's just got to be all kinds of awful. I don't know how. I don't know how you're not a Starbucks barista right now because you can't be selling real estate.
Yeah, slow your roll, baby boy. Yeah, no, yeah, we're gonna get into that. I mean, there's definitely signs of change upon us, but far, 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 far from the sky falling. So
Yeah, people have been calling for Las Vegas to crash for like, I don't know, 3-4 years now, pretty steadily, and it hasn't. And I think it's fair to say that Vegas may be slowing down. That's something I've been telling people for the last 6 months is coming to America. So no reason why Vegas shouldn't feel it, at least at some level. But yeah, even though rates are up, rates have doubled. And it'll be interesting to see what's going on with Vegas real estate. So I know you have a lot of amazing details. Let's just show people what you got and we can talk about it.
okay. So kind of from a macro perspective, we are in a very, very, very fascinating moment in time.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is anytime markets change, there's going to be a delay. And there's a delay between perception and reality. Okay. And what I mean by that is this. And before we overreact to everything, a trend to me, a trend is when you have 2 to 3 months of a particular behavior, not one isolated month.
Right.
Last month definitely showed us an indication of a slowdown in certain areas. But again, you can't overreact to 1 month information. If that persists continuously, then we have a trend on our hands and something to be concerned about. Right now, it's very cautionary. But what I wanted to explain was the perception reality difference. And what I mean by that is what's occurring in the real world, in real space, in real time isn't necessarily reflected in the media and is not necessarily reflected in the eyes of sellers.
You mean the media lies to us, Brian? Come on, stop it.
I wouldn't say lies, but versions of what was it, Kellyanne Conway? Alternative truths?
Alternative truths.
Well, let's just say alternative truths.
Right.
And I'll kind of get into that later because there is some media coverage that is both true and false at the very same time.
Okay.
And what we're going to do today here is get to the bottom of what's true and what's false, because sometimes factual data is misrepresentative of the reality.
Okay? Well, we see it on YouTube a lot. I mean, there's a lot of content creators who put out statistics that are factually correct, but horribly misguided.
Exactly.
Right. Inventory is up 900%. Well, it went from 1 to 9. I mean,
exactly. And that's so what I try to do in my videos is add perspective to empty calories, right? I can spit all these empty calories of data, but what does that actually mean in real space in real time? So
yeah, and remind people what your YouTube channel is, because what you do for the Vegas market is something, frankly, other agents should do for their MSAs. You have data back years. You've been collecting data every month religiously. So when you talk about April data, you not only have this April, you have last April and the April before that. So it's amazing what you have done and you continue to do. You just put out a video with April data yesterday, which I unfortunately haven't seen yet, but we should all go check you out. What is your YouTube channel?
Yeah. So my YouTube channel is the Lebo Group. So, I mean, just go on Google and type Brian Lebo, type the Lebo Group, and you'll get it on YouTube. Cool. And what I've been doing this for over a decade. And what I've been providing the general public is, like I said, it's deeper insight as to what's really going on in the market. I've predicted market upturns multiple times because you can follow certain trends and come to a conjecture, no matter what, whether it's a crash, whether it's an uptick. The tea leaves have always been there, is whether you choose to recognize them and follow them. You can't necessarily always predict what happens a year, 2 years from now, but you can certainly see behaviors as they occur, and you can certainly be well ahead of the curve by paying attention to what's important and not disseminating all the other information.
That'd be, before we get into the data, because I really want to look at the data and just highlight the amazing stuff you do for folks. I want to talk about that because I'm in my market every day. Obviously you've been in Vegas doing this for 10 years. I just want to talk about the last 2 weeks, right? Since May 1st. So 17, 18 days, whatever it is. I want to talk about the out-of-state investor, because it was very clear when we talked, a couple of times in the last year, out-of-state investors, specifically California, SoCal, California, were repeatedly coming in and buying cash, kind of the 750 and above area, if I remember our talks. Are they still calling you? Is it slowed down? What's going on with these out-of-state folks?
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, if you're buying long-term rental properties, the immediate future doesn't really matter unless you legitimately believe, like if you're looking to purchase a portfolio of 5 more properties, it doesn't make any difference what's happening in the next 6 months, year. You're concerned with, is this a viable investment for the long term?
Correct.
So fundamentally, nothing has changed. And from an investor standpoint, as long as you can put asses in seats, it doesn't really make a difference. And the rental market hasn't softened a bit, and I don't see that softening at all. So from an investor standpoint, yeah, you're getting hit on the interest rates. So that's certainly less favorable. By all means, everyone that I've spoken to that's very high up in the banking system, it appears as though rates are going to touch that 6% rate and then are going to come back to about 3% at the same time next year.
Wow.
So in the threes. I shouldn't say 3%, in the threes.
That's amazing. Lots of people are saying that, man. So you're saying in the threes. So you're not calling that return trip this year. You're calling it next year.
Q1, Q2 next year.
Yeah,
so
lots of people are calling for that. That'll be interesting. Okay.
Yeah, from what I gather, it's basically the Feds and then the bond market, which is what mortgage rates are tied to. Basically, we got to get inflation under control. So they're going to keep blowing these interest rates up until people stop borrowing, stop spending. And
they're going to break it. They're going to break it on.
You got to break the cycle. Now, once you break the cycle, you got to be careful not to end up in a recession. So once we get people comfortable, not blowing all their money, not taking out excessive loans, and getting back to normalcy, I think what we're missing sight of is, which we can discuss a little bit later, when you have a market that's overheated, that's ridiculous, that's non-sustainable, slowing that down isn't a crash. It may feel like a crash when things slow down.
Exactly.
But really, it's simply a return to normalcy.
Yeah, you're not in a vet going 120 down the freeway. You're in a vet, going 25 or 15 in a school district or whatever the right speed limit. You're still going forward. You're just not going 120.
And I mean, I've been saying this since we started doing these interviews. 20-30% appreciation is not sustainable.
Yes, you did. Yep.
If you continue at 20-30% indefinitely, eventually you will find yourself in a crash, because that is not sustainable.
Agreed.
So this is probably the greatest potential for soft landing that we have, where we can avoid a major crash by returning to normalcy in a slow, cautionary pace. And ultimately, that's what I see happening is rates are going to go up to the point where people finally cool out.
Yep.
And once we have normalcy, once inflation gets under control, beginning of next year, then all of a sudden you'll start to see the Fed taper rates back down, because you don't want to end up in a recession. You want an even and balanced market. And everything they've done has not slowed it down. So drastic situations require drastic measures. And that's why we're seeing rates go so high.
So in the numbers, right? Because again, you've been doing this monthly. If what you're kind of putting out there is the future happens, I'm guessing what we would see in the numbers is inventory rise, probably.
Yeah. So the greatest precursor that we want to look at is inventory levels.
Okay.
Right? So your greatest predictor of market behavior is going to be those inventory levels, because right now, so here's the two truths, right? Last month, inventory in Las Vegas went up 25%.
Oh, no.
Right. As a blanket statement, in general terms, a 25% monthly increase in inventory is devastating. That indicates a massive crash, a massive swing. That's very drastic. Now, on the other hand, if I tell you that inventory went up 450 homes and we sell 3,000 a month, is that really, really something to really get concerned about? I mean,
your days on market went from 9 to 11.
Exactly. We increased like 4 days of inventory.
Oh my God.
So
that's funny.
Where we stand is, we're selling about 3,000 homes a month, and our inventory went up 450 homes. So we've gone from, a 2.5, 3 week supply of inventory to like a 3-4 week supply of inventory. If you study,
actually, can I ask you a question about that? I mean, if you don't know the answer, it's totally cool, but I am fascinated by this because, again, I look in my market every day, Fresno, California. I now have a national show that I hear from all other areas. So I really think housing has three segments: first-time home buyer, move-up buyer, luxury. And if you haven't looked at this, it's totally cool. But I'm curious if you had a rough guess of the 450 new homes. Is it kind of evenly dispersed? Is there one bigger bucket than the other? Any idea?
As far as new inventory, it's going to be evenly dispersed.
It is. Okay.
The next topic I was going to get to is housing absorption.
Okay.
So, and that will kind of explain what you're looking for, just in a different metric. Okay.
Understood. Yep.
I see where you're going, and I'll satisfy that desire, but in a different way. Okay.
Okay.
So from an inventory standpoint, 450 homes is a drop in the bucket. Who cares? That's just it's a catchy headline, but really not anything to get overly concerned with. However, what is concerning is since the end of April, so 2 weeks in, we've had double digits both weeks. I haven't pulled this week because I'll be pulling it tomorrow. Now,
when you say double digits both week, what is double digits?
Oh, I'm sorry, triple digits. So
new inventory.
Each week this month, we've had 100 plus homes added to the inventory. So what happened last month is not an anomaly.
Right.
We're continuously adding. And I think a couple of weeks ago, let me see real quick. The first week of the month, we added 207 homes. Last week, we added 133 homes. So quite frankly, these are pretty large numbers that eventually will add up.
Now, when you look at these numbers, again, this is fascinating, and Vegas is such a special place. I think like last year, I believe we had FOMO, but it was on the buyer side.
100%.
Now, what I think might be happening is we have FOMO on the seller side. Oh my God, it's the peak. I don't want to see Vegas, because maybe these people are in Vegas and they saw Vegas last time crash 75% or 80 or whatever it was. And now they're like, oh my God, I don't want to live through that again. I'm going to sell now. But my question to you is, of all of these listings, I'm seeing a lot of what I call wish pricing. I want to sell it at what my neighbor got 4 months ago, and it's just a fundamentally different market. Do you see a lot of wish pricing, or do you think these things are priced pretty good and all of it'll sell?
So going back to what I was saying, perception versus reality. Right now, the market is changing. The problem is there's that delay between the reality and the perception. So you are correct. There are speculative sellers out there that are going, hey, let's just cash out. I was going to wait till the end of the year, but hey, I don't want to get stuck, so let's cash out. So you do have some people that are jumping the gun. So real quick, you were right. Last year, which we'll get back to, part of the reason last year was so ridiculous in April was there was basically a run on the market. People that were normally not going to buy until June or May bought early because prices were accelerating so much. So again, on that note, what happened last year was a complete anomaly. That is not normal market behavior for the month of April. So to try to compare this April to the greatest April in the history of Las Vegas real estate is setting yourself up for failure. It's like if you're a Chicago Bulls fan and you're saying, I can't believe we aren't winning 72 games.
Yeah.
That happened once in history, happened twice in history because of the Warriors. That is not any type of a normal benchmark or behavior, and your expectations are way exceeding normality. Now, getting back to this perception reality conversation, the problem that is about to exist, and this is why I said we're in a very, very interesting time. I've been here before. Now, the problem is if you're a seller, all you've heard for 2 years is, I'll list my house for whatever I want. I'll get more than what I asked for. Some rich guy from California is going to show up with a bag of money and beg me to overpay for my house. And you can't blame people because everyone knows someone who knows another 5 people who replicated that model. So the problem that you're running into now is this. The market is starting to fragment with regards to behavior. Okay. So last week I listed a property for a client who it was for their mother. And so, it's a very humble, small home in an older area. It's not super crazy desirable. It's 1,000 square foot little home with a pool, but it needs an entire remodel. It's not an amazing sought after property, but it was an inexpensive property with a swimming pool and a nice little backyard. I had 21 offers.
Wow.
And we were well over 10% of the asking price with the offers. So on one hand, where we are currently at is on the affordable side of housing, there's still 20 buyers for every home. And you got to realize this. When people make statements about the market, it's easy to make some blanket statement, but the truth is that real estate is so much more nuanced. It depends on the location, the price range. There's many factors that are going to dictate market behavior. So when we're talking about homes that are priced $300,000 to $400,000, it is very much a seller's market because one, you have to think, expanding on what you were saying, first-time home buyers, that's their price segment, right? You also have investors that are going to be buying these as rental properties. You also have second home buyers that are buying these for second homes. It fundamentally, everyone can afford a $300,000 to $400,000, $500,000 home. There's a ton of buyers. More importantly, think about this. For a $400,000 home, there are no new homes being built competing with that product. So you have a very constrained supply and a massive amount of demand that you cannot possibly even meet.
Yeah, you could cut the demand in half with higher rates and it still doesn't matter. There's still enough cash buyers and all of that.
Yeah. You've got so many buyers that you've got a whole generation of kids that didn't buy homes because it wasn't important to them that are now getting in. And you've got so many people that had abandoned the concept that are still trying to get in. Fundamentally, that price segment is damn near indestructible for a very, 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 very long time. Yeah. Now, where we're starting to see cracks is in the $750,000 to $1.5 million price range. And the reason is you're dealing with more astute buyers that are paying more attention to the markets. These are the types of buyers that have stock investments, that have crypto investments. So obviously they've taken a pounding in this last month. So anyone who deals in like higher end real estate knows that, individuals' portfolios can very much dictate their desire to jump in and out of markets. You lose half of your money in crypto and, your backside gets real tight real quick. Yeah. So the other component to that is, in good areas in Las Vegas, the majority of the homes being built are in that $700,000 to $1 million price range.
Yeah, forgive me, I don't know Vegas at all. Would you consider $750,000 to $1.5 luxury, or is that just a solid move-up buyer? I don't know.
So, luxury, I would still say, 1 million to 1.5 ish is still, you're getting into that luxury segment. Okay. And then ultra luxury, I would consider over 1.5 million, 2 million. Okay. Now, and that's a whole different world of ultra luxury. A lot of those are cash buyers. And again, there's an effect there as well. Sure. But when I pulled the saturation numbers, it was pretty drastic. While we saw drops across the board, the major difference was in the $750,000 to $1 million price range, there was an 8% drop in housing absorption. So what that means to you watching is that when you go look on Zillow, let's just say if the saturation rate is 66%, it means that when you go look on Zillow, 2 out of 3 homes that you're looking at is already under contract. They're not available. Yeah. So the higher the percentage, the more competitive that market segment is. Okay. Well, 750 to 1 million dropped 8%. That's a huge drop for 1 month.
Yeah, 1 month. Yeah.
1 million to 1.5 dropped 9%.
Ooh,
huge drop for 1 month. Now, like I said earlier, so many of these brand new homes being built in nice areas like Green Valley and Summerlin, which really drives these markets. Those properties, once built, are right up there, 700,000 to 1.5 million. So you have less demand because interest rates are really affecting people's purchasing power. The best way to put it is purchasing power. So when buyers' purchasing power is affected, the amount that they're qualifying for is going to be reduced. And you also have to remember, you've got competition on two ends. You've got brand new home competition and you've got resale home competition.
Yeah.
So it's a very different market than when we're talking about affordable housing.
Oh, no question. Yeah.
So that's where we're going to see the first cracks. Now, from the seller standpoint, that perception reality argument becomes very, very profound in the sense that there's people that are listing their house, right? Let's say your house is worth 800,000. Of course, you're going to list it for 825, 850. Why not? We can always come down. So you list it for $850,000 and now all of a sudden there's crickets. And I'm seeing properties that are on the market 30, 40 days are stacking up. And yeah, they're overpriced and they're not in the condition that they should be in because those sellers were conditioned to believing that anyone will buy anything for any price. And now the market is starting to change. So now we're slowly getting back to reality. So now what you're going to find is that a lot of these sellers, their expectations are not going to be met in the next month or two because they're going to find out that their house isn't selling. And why?
Yeah. So let's talk about that person, because that's exactly what's happening across the country, at least in most markets. We're going to use the 800, 850 example here. So that seller that listed 850, after 30 days, if they haven't already, they call up the listing agent and yell at you. You suck, blah, blah, blah. Where's my open house? You're not doing your job, blah, blah, blah. Let's just assume after 3 months, there's been no price drop. The question I have is, again, sellers are predictable. Some of those people at 850 will simply take their home off the market. Nobody understands. My house is special, blah, 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 blah. And they weren't really a sale because they didn't price it right. Yeah. It counted as active, but it was never priced right. Others will take a price drop. And now, will they take a price drop to the 800? Or because now they've aged out, they need to go 775 or something, right? Because they got to get eyeballs on it. The question I'm guessing, and then, oh, by the way, if you sell it, if you have it at 850, you sell it at 800, where the hell are you going to go? Right. Are you going to stay in Vegas? Are you going to go to Miami? I mean, where are you going? Because again, the whole market is, I think the housing market is broken, just broken. First time home buyers, white hot. Move up market, kind of broken because, oh, by the way, I bought my house in Vegas 2 years ago. Not only have I made $100,000 or $150,000, but I got interest rates sub 3. Why do I want to buy the brand new house at 500 and my rate's now 7? This whole housing market is broken. I think national transactions fall at least 25% this year. I don't know if that kind of hits you as super shocking or not.
I don't know that that's necessarily gonna be the number in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I don't know.
We have such migration. I mean, if you want to get the hell out of California, you're getting out and you're going somewhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's here, Phoenix.
You're going east.
You're going somewhere, man.
Yeah.
But what's going to be really, really interesting now moving forward is this. You've got compound fractures. So I like right now I'm in escrow on a property that's $800,000. Well, the seller for that property, their home is being built and it's going to be completed here soon. Now, here's this immediate phase is going to be very interesting because you've got overambitious sellers that are not going to have their expectations met, right? If you're counting on 850 for your house sale, thinking you're going to use that for your down payment on this home that you're being built, if suddenly you get 775, you're coming up 75K short on your expectation.
And your stock just got a hit and you don't have the backup.
And then second of all, you also have to remember, a lot of these people they cut it close and homes aren't selling in those price ranges as quickly as possible. Yeah. Now, here's the analogy that I try to use in last month's video, not this month. And I was actually surprised when I really wrapped my head around it because I started it saying, I've never had a buyer say, I was going to buy a house, but now that interest rates are up half a point, you know what? I'm going to wait till next year. That's never happened to me. That doesn't necessarily happen. But here's exactly what happens. And ultimately, it boils down to the same thing. At the beginning of the year, when interest rates were 3%, and this is a weird number, but it kind of is where it came in. If you had a $1,776 monthly payment, you could qualify for a $475,000 home. The reason I did that is because that was the median price when I did the video, right?
Yep.
So 475 was 1776. Okay. At 5%, you qualify for 370. You guys out there, like really, 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 really pay attention to that because what people don't understand, especially in America, is that we are a country bound by monthly payments.
Yes.
People don't care about the price of items as much as they care about the monthly obligation and if they can squeeze that into their budget. So the problem that happens is going from a $470,000 property to a $370,000 property for the same monthly amount, you're not getting that same type of home at all.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
Like where I'm at, you can't get a home in Summerlin for 370. You can get a home for 470. So the problem you run into is these buyers that were pre-qualified, they come out and all of a sudden they go, oh my God, like I don't like what I see. I'm not going to buy.
Yep.
Whoop, they're out. Now, what's going to be interesting is if let's say you're a seller and you have this brand new home being built.
Yep.
One, you're not going to get necessarily what you were hoping to, and it's going to be a little bit of a rougher course and it may take longer. The second part is now that interest rates have gone up more than 2 points, like you said, doubled. What the hell does your payment on that house look like? So you're gonna have a lot of people that are not going to qualify for the home that they built.
Yes, I agree. I think and that's what we're going to do in episode 2, talk about builders. Because I do think that's where a lot of the pain will show up first, because they got to move, right? Existing home sellers, they can decide to stay. At least many times. Builders are recycling money and they got to keep the crews going and keep the cash flow going. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Kind of wrap up Vegas for us. Basically what I think you're saying is we have an inflection point. Inventory is building, validated with May's early data. But where we go from here is still to be determined, is what I hear you saying. Yeah,
for the most part. I mean, it definitely feels like the market's cooling. It feels that way. The data is backing it up. But right now, it's not across the board. It's very, very much segregated into specific price segments, specific products. The question we have moving forward is, one, how many cancellations do we start seeing on brand new homes? Yes. Because again, like I said, people are not going to qualify for these new homes. And again, the majority of people buying an $800,000 home, it's not their first home. They're selling a home and then they're buying their home. So if they're impacted on the sale and then they're getting impacted on the interest rate hit, suddenly it's just stay. It doesn't feel right, and people are going to back out. And if the media portrays that there's going to be this crash, whether it happens or not, do you want to take on more debt, especially at a time where Wall Street's failing, crypto's broke, everyone's talking about a recession? Some people may be wisely conservative and just say, you know what, I'd rather lose my $40,000 earnest money on this new home than encumber myself with debt that I can't afford.
Yep. We're going to talk about builders in episode number 2. Brian, where can people find you?
So lebogroup.com. You can go to YouTube and watch my videos and understand how I operate. And that's just YouTube, the Lebo Group, or just call or text me directly, 702-257-LEBO, 257-LEBO.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, guys. Thank you.